Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in today's podcast, we're going to be looking ahead to the international match coming up, Jamaica versus Cuba. The EPL is on hold, and we're on an international break. And of course, Jamaica is in action. Now, of course, joining me this evening to preview this big matchup with our Cuban neighbors, we have a man who has spent some time in Cuba himself, Sir Cole.
Greetings, one and all. Greetings.
Yes, indeed, Sir Cole. Big match coming up at the National Stadium. I take it you will be there in full flow.
Still undecided, but still possible. But by tomorrow, I'll know if I'll make the trip or not.
Indeed. So the Steve McClaren era begins, Sir Cole. What can we expect from this team? What can we expect from this matchup? What are you looking forward to seeing in this game?
Everyone is very optimistic now that we have a new coach. New coaches always bring that kind of optimism, and everyone is always in support of the new coach until he takes the reins and starts to make decisions that we don't agree with. So it's a similar thing to when Coach Hal Grimson took over, full of enthusiasm. But then, once you begin to draw a game and to, make, include players or exclude players that are which is not to our liking, then of course the pitchforks and things start to come out. I do that, but
Well,
I,
I mean, well, I mean, it's early days. I mean, it's hard to say that McLaren will be judged based on this one game. This is his first game in charge. And I mean, time must be given for him to get his message across, his tactics, his style of play, etc. So I'm sure the fans are not really expecting him to pull up trees for this game.
yeah, for sure. But as was stated, based on the quality players that we have, and based on the ranking of Cuba, and see that we are playing at home as well, one would expect Jamaica to make light work of this Cuban contingent. I mean, more experienced players as it relates to players playing globally, while most all of the Cuban players will apply their trade in Cuba, which is to they're playing in a very inferior league to what our players are or our players are exposed to. So I really would expect Jamaica to get the job done tomorrow and get it done quite easily.
So this should be an easy win for Jamaica then, Sir Cole. I mean, 59th ranked Jamaica versus 167th ranked Cuba. This should be an easy walk in the park. I mean, with the enthusiasm and the buzz that is surrounding McLaren at this point in time, I mean, this should be nothing other than a routine win for this Jamaican team.
Well, it should be. If my memory is correct, let me go way back in the memory box. Coach Simoes' first game when he became uh, coach of Jamaica, I think was probably against Cuba as well. Uh, that was, I said, about 94 or, yes, 94.
94.
Um, yeah, man.
Mm.
That's when Coach Simoes took over the program.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. So his first game in charge was against Cuba, which we had not beaten for a while. No, I think the parameters are really have no change. We're a lot more experienced. We have grown a lot since then. Why I think Cuba's progress may have been a bit slower than ours. So both units would have progressed, yes, but I think Jamaica's growth is head and shoulders above that of our neighbors.
Well, I mean, definitely by the FIFA rankings alone, I mean, Jamaica is ranked way, way above Cuba. Jamaica is one of the top CONCACAF teams in all honesty. And I mean, our Cuban neighbors, probably football isn't even their first love circle. What's the big sport over there in Cuba? Is it football or is it baseball?
Actually, it is baseball. Most times when you're in the streets in Cuba, you see the little kids with their ball and gloves. It's really not football. So they do play, yes, but it's really not their sport of choice. Everybody wants to be the baseball hero, not necessarily the football hero.
Indeed. But getting back to this game though, Sir Cole, what can we expect from this new coach? Can we expect something different? I mean, McClaren, former England coach, Sir Cole. I mean, former England coach, he last took charge of England, or in fact, his last international head coaching job was way back when in 2007. And his most recent coaching stint was one of the backroom staff coaches under current Manchester United manager, Eric Ten Hag. And I mean, we saw what Manchester United did last season. And obviously, it probably wasn't to the liking of McClaren. So hence, he put his resume forward for this Jamaican job, and so said, so done. He got the job and is now in charge. I mean, this is a prime opportunity for a coach of McLaren's stature to really be at a World Cup. You know, he failed with England to even qualify them for the Euros circle. But this is a prime opportunity for him to take a nation such as Jamaica to the biggest global event on the planet.
Mm,
2026
mm,
USA
mm.
right in our backyard. I mean, this is a prime opportunity.
Yes, it is, and it really should not be used as a measuring stick as to how good he in particular is. He got an England team which was full of talent, and as you mentioned, failed to qualify for the Euros. I believe Israel was a team that which got rid of England, knocked us out of that Euro
Ah,
2008, and I
well, I
mean, it
mean,
was very. I mean, a team with such talent. Mine is still, maybe there's a lot of politics going around, probably some bad decisions, things going behind the scenes that we don't really know. But I know, I expect at least his first impression should be a good one in this game tomorrow.
well, definitely. I mean, he's not, what should I say, alone in his quest to bring it home for England, in all honesty. You know, many a top coach
Mm.
have come to England and have failed. I mean, the list is very long. You can go back as far as Sven Goran Eriksson, you know, big names such as Capello, and recently Southgate. So McLaren is not really alone in that quest to really bring any sort of football glory back to England. But for sure, this game coming up, I am looking forward to seeing what new he brings to this Jamaican team. I mean, under Helgrimson, it started well, but to me, it the progress somewhat stuttered. You know, one of the big criticism was the fact that we were bypassing a lot of the midfield play, especially when we played against team which was either on our level or slightly better. You know, oftentimes these teams would dominate possession and we would constantly be on the defensive. So that is one of the things that I will be looking for. I mean, Cuba really is not the best team to gauge that with. And of course, this is McLaren's first game in charge as well, just getting his feet wet, just getting to know the players. So I'm not, as mentioned earlier, I'm not really expecting him to pull up trees per se, but I would love to see some semblance of what he plans to bring to the team circle. Just something to hang his hat on to say, oh, this is different from what Hal Grimson was pretty much bringing with this team. I mean, what are you looking for, Circle? Other than a win, what else is on the table that you can say, yes, this is something in particular that I'm looking to see from a coaching point of view, at least. I mean, many of the players who were selected for this camp, we are somewhat familiar with. And that was one of the things I could give Hal Grimson credit for. The Jamaican team now has a core group that is selected for. You know, pretty much we can somewhat guess at least half of the 11 who should be there. You know, the Antonios, the Bobby Reeds
Mm.
should be there, you know, the Pinocks, etc. So
Mm.
at least we have some wholesale names now that we can say, all right, these players should be there, thereabouts. I mean, Leon Bailey should be there if he was not injured as well. But
Mm.
we'll touch on that later on. But in terms of what you can expect or what you're looking for, Sir Cole, talk to us about that. I mean, what's one of the key characteristic from a coaching point of view that you'll be looking to see from a Steve McClaren team, even if this is really just his first game in charge?
Well, I can't say I've really studied or observed much of his own work in terms of analysis of how the team plays. He himself, even though he knows the majority of the players, will probably still take or need a bit of time to fit the team together in terms of who plays, where they play, and how the team plays. So I can't really say I'm really looking for any template at this point. However, over time, based on the training sessions and matches and getting to know the players, then we can start to see a system taking shape. One thing for sure, though, I don't expect that probably in the game tomorrow we may have to play that way. But Jamaica traditionally has not been a possession-based team. But as I said, maybe tomorrow play against inferior opponents such as Cuba, we may be forced to adapt, that kind of play in the game to possess the ball, move it around, draw them out, and look to break down the lines. Traditionally, we have relied a lot on counter attacks. Sit back, absorb, get on the counter, which I don't think in the long run will change because I really don't see our identity changing to possess the ball. And when we play against top teams, I don't think we will possess the ball.
So in other words, Sir Cole,
Good.
don't get our hopes up then to say Jamaica knocking it from back to middle to forward. Don't really get our hopes up to be bossing games and dictating the pace per se when it comes to
No,
at least teams on our level.
it's quite likely that in this game you may see that and it may look good. But again, superior opponents, I don't very much that we will get to that level or get or be there consistently.
Yeah, I definitely can concur to a large extent. But I mean, you must admit though, Circle, that the team dynamic, which is Jamaica, has been shifting. I mean, we hear players being touted, players like Mason Greenwood, for example. I was expecting him to get a call up for this game because we've been hearing that he has switched allegiance. So I was quite shocked
No
when I
man,
didn't see a man like
no,
a Mason Greenwood.
no, he has not switched allegiance. They're in the paperwork or doing the paperwork to get his allegiance changed. So it's not a done deal as yet. So
But he has agreed for that though, so to speak.
apparently they have started to make those applications
Oh, so
because
it's just a matter of
if
time technically then.
yes, so but that time has not come as yet. Apparently, it's a lot easier if you're getting the change based on your parents. So if your direct parents are Jamaican, then that change is easier. Now, if you're going to the third generation, meaning your grandparents, that change isn't as smooth.
Oh,
So
which is
apparently,
his
yeah,
case.
apparently that's the issue with him. So it takes a bit more time at that level to get that change done.
Right, but I mean, the point still remain though, Circle, with
Mm-hmm.
players such as the caliber and quality of a Antonio, for example, a D. Cardova Reed, a Mason Greenwood, a Leon Bailey, Ethan Pinnock. These are all players, Sir Cole, which is playing in top flight English football and other leagues around the world, quality leagues, players of quality. And then you compare that to teams like Cuba, for example, and as you clearly pointed out, football isn't even the big sport in Cuba. These are all locally based players. And then, of course, you're going to be matching up against other countries in CONCACAF, the Nicaraguas, the El Salvadors, etc. Who, I mean, Jamaica should have a pool of superior talent, in my estimation.
Yeah, and we've always had that pool of, well, not always, but the guys for the last 10 years or so, we have had such talent at our disposal. So we're good enough to overcome certain level of opponents, but the acid test in CONCACAF is really USA and Mexico.
And Canada now as well. I mean, Canada has really
Canada
stepped
as
up their
well.
football.
Fine, but when you look at, yeah, Canada has gone to the last World Cup. But when you look at our regional competition, the Gold Cup, the top teams have clearly been USA, Mexico, and Jamaica. With
Right, right.
Jamaica edging over Canada, because I don't think for the last few editions of the Gold Cup, Canada has gotten as far as Jamaica.
Well, I
So
mean,
we
in
are
the
the
Copa America, though, Circle, the recently
mm,
concluded one, Canada
yes.
went quite deep and was probably the top team in CONCACAF, in all honesty. So Canada really have stepped up. I mean, under new coach Jesse March as
They
well.
are. They have done well, and we're not saying that they haven't done well. However, in the Nations League, we did get the better of them. And not only got the better of them, they got the better of them away
Right, which
in
is
their
right,
home
which is true.
when they already had the advantage. So
Where
based
I
on the
we finished third in that one. I think we beat Panama in that third place playoff.
yeah, I'm not quite remember how that went, but yes, but
Yeah, I
we
think we
actually
beat
reached
Panama and
the
finished third.
semis. Good.
Right.
So we are the third best team in CONCACAF. And I mean, it's only the others now who have gone to a World Cup like Panama, Honduras, etc. Costa Rica, who think should be able to pose a problem versus
But
Jamaica.
so clearly then, Circle,
Mm.
we should easily qualify for the next edition of the World Cup. Easily. Because you already have three teams which are automatic qualifiers
We
by the mere
know.
fact that they're hosts. So
Mm.
technically, CONCACAF is what? Getting 6 or 7, 6.5 spaces?
6.5 spots, yes.
Yeah, I
Yes, so
mean,
it
Jamaica
should.
has to be. I
I
mean, you're
agree.
saying Jamaica is a top three team in CONCACAF.
We
So
are.
add to that six. I mean, this should be a routine qualification campaign.
It should be third. It should be in theory, but let's just hold on a bit and see how
Yes,
it
man. I
plays out.
mean, if McLaren fail to qualify this team, this would be one of the biggest failures in recent time, in all honesty. I mean, Jamaica haven't qualified since 98. This is
Mm.
the perfect opportunity. I mean, the World Cup is being kept in your backyard. And of course, you have a large Jamaican diaspora living in the United States, Canada, etc. It's in your backyard. Three teams are already qualified, and another 3.5 spot pending. You can't ask for it any better.
We really can't. But the game isn't played on paper. The game is played on the field. So um let's see how it turns out. But I just said we really should be in that three. Not only in the three, we should be top of the three.
So anything other than top of the tree is a failure then, Circle.
No, I won't say it's a failure because this is football. But definitely we should be in the three.
The three. I mean, I think so as well. I mean, I see nothing other than Jamaica qualifying for the next World Cup. And as I said, to me, this is one of the reasons McClaren took the job. I mean, when you look at the analysis, three teams already qualified, another three to qualify. Jamaica has to be in the mix. And as I said, this is the
Well,
perfect opportunity.
when
This
when
is an
when you
easy way
analyze,
for you to get
it is.
your World Cup berth, so to speak.
When you analyze, those say that he they say just took the job, he would have applied just as others and was
Well,
offered the job. So other candidates, other candidates would have put forward their
well,
themselves
yeah,
as
I
well.
mean,
Yeah.
for sure. But I
Yeah.
mean, when you look around the world, Jamaica isn't the most glamorous of teams where a caliber coach such as McLaren is gonna leave a job at Manchester United, one of the top teams globally, granted in an assistant role, and now he's taking on a head coach role. But he had to have looked at that circle to say to himself, wow, this is a prime opportunity for me to be at a World Cup. This is the dream of any manager, any player. And I mean, I'm sure that would have factored in his decision to accept the job.
I'm sure it played a huge factor in his accepting the job. Also, based on our that's a recent history, we do pay very well. It seems we do pay very well. At least to the
Well,
at least the foreign coaches, at least the foreign coaches are
well, I
handsomely
mean,
paid.
it's a cultural thing, Sir Cole. Jamaicans love everything foreign, it seems. And I mean, coaches are no different.
Well,
You know, once the complexion is Caucasian, they seem to get all the benefits, big house, chauffeur driven, etc., etc., all the various perks. I mean, a man
yeah,
like
I
Papa
mean,
probably didn't get these perks at all, or a local based
no,
coach.
I mean, I thought, he got a raw deal in terms of as you mentioned, all these perks as the head person. But when really and truly, his work was probably better than most of them who have got coming with very um, a lot more fancy resumes than him.
Well, for sure, early days yet, early days yet. We definitely have to watch and see how this one pans out versus Cuba Circle. But in terms of a potential or a predicted scoreline circle for this game, McLaren's first game in charge, Jamaica, I would say superior team, superior quality players playing at home, Kingston, Jamaica, of course. Big match, enthusiasm high. What's your take on the potential scoreline in this one?
Yeah, before I touch the scoreline, the Cubans tend to be very technical players, not necessarily physical, but technical. They stress a lot on the technique. However, what they we may be lacking is the tactical side of the game, as well as how physical they are in terms of their running. Um, I think that with our superior experience in terms of our playing at home, technical prowess, skill on the ball, I would think a score of 4 goals to nil should be quite on the cards.
4 goals to 0. Wow.
Yes.
That's a big that's a big scoreline there, Circle. 4 goals to 0. I was thinking more along the lines of a 1-0 win for Jamaica. I mean,
One
Cuba
nil.
really coming into this one very defensive, Circle. I mean, that's my take on it. I think Cuba will come very defensive. 10 man or even 11 man behind the ball and really
Mhm.
soak up pressure and aim to play on the counter. I mean, I think this Cuban team might very well be very one-dimensional, as you mentioned, very technical, but lacking in that tactical awareness. And, you know, uh, defending with bodies behind the ball is probably their main tactic going into this one and try to hit Jamaica on the counter attack. Uh, I don't see Jamaica being very prolific, in all honesty, in front of goal. And I think they have enough in them to get a goal or possibly two. But for me, I think 4-0 is a big, big stretch. But I mean, the ball is round, as they say. For me, I'm looking at Jamaica pinching it. 1 goal to 0 in all honesty. And, McLaren getting off to a winning start.
But question, 1 nil really isn't very far from nil nil. Should the outcome of this game be nil nil? What will your first impressions have been?
Well, that my first impression is definitely going to be based on the performance and not necessarily the scoreline, in all honesty. Of course, the scoreline is going to be the most important factor. But what I am personally looking forward to is really the performance. I'm looking to see if there is any difference in approach when compared to Halgrim's early days, of course. And again, as I said, I don't expect wholesale changes or a complete shift in terms of style of play, etc. But I'm hoping to see some subtle differences. I'm hoping to see what McLaren has brought to the team, and I'm hoping to see that from the first game. So my assessment of this game will be more on the performance, in all honesty, and not necessarily the scoreline. So it all depends on the performance circle. If we can dominate the game, create chances, but then maybe our finishing let us down, then I would be quite satisfied with that. On the other hand, if it's a case where chances are very limited and we just barely manage to pinch a goal, maybe from a set piece, for example, then it's a different analysis, it's a different ball game, it's a different perspective. But for sure, I think Jamaica has superior quality opponent when you look at Antonio, Gray, Bobby Reed, Hector, Pinnock, Blake in
Nicholson and
goal.
those guys.
Exactly, it's a star lit team, for want of a better word, in the CONCACAF context, so to speak, or we, in comparatively speaking against, local based players who probably play in the Cuban domestic league, if there is even a league. I'm not sure how the Cuban
Yeah,
system
man. There's a
is
league.
structured.
They do have a national league.
Right. So, I'm not sure the quality. I'm not sure if the JPL ranks above them, so to speak. I'm not sure. I'm very limited in my knowledge of the Cuban affairs in terms of that aspect, but just looking at the quality players that Jamaica have in the ranks, Jamaica should get the win, should get the better of this Cuban team. And I would be very surprised, very shocked if we did not come away from this game with a victory. But again, I'm not really looking for any big scoreline. Jamaica has not been the most prolific of teams over the years. And I really don't see that changing much versus a
Well,
team who probably take a defensive approach.
recently I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and basically he was saying that Jamaica really and truly doesn't score many goals.
Which is
Um,
right. The
I,
stats will definitely support that.
Fine. Over the last 30 games, which will include those losses of score, of course, in which we haven't scored, we have scored 42 goals across those 30 games, including some 4 and 5 goal games. So we may not score against everybody, but the odd game occurs when we do score multiple goals, and many other losses have been scoring losses as well. So most of those have been against superior teams. Now against the inferior teams, we do actually have a habit, I would say, of putting multiple goals past those opponents.
So bugging up. So you're looking for a bug up then, Sir Cole. Cuba should
I
be
am
bugged
looking
up.
for, well, at least a small bag.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Maybe that
definitely.
they
I mean, as a new coach, that would be ideal because you definitely want the fan support. I mean, the JFF needs the money, Sir Cole, and putting on a show, so to speak, exhibition. You take a 3-0 lead, a 4-0 lead, and then you can start pile salad, couple guys out there,
the
and
thing is, I'm thinking the new coach effect will have an impact on the players. Everybody will know want to impress, to get their starting spot secured, so that
right.
when the road is called up yonder in 2026, they are on that plane. So everybody will go, at least wants to put their best foot forward and to create a good impression from early in the coach's mind. So which is why I think they will go all out. They will go guns blazing. I do see a clean sheet, and I'm thinking that they will come out with at least a 4 goal win.
Well, I don't doubt the reasoning. The reasoning is sound for sure. We often speak about that new coach effect, which tends to boost the team. So I do not doubt the reasoning. However, my only concern is that I feel Cuba will come with a defensive approach from minute one. So I don't think they're gonna be looking to really attack Jamaica to any large degree and leave space in behind. And that is where I fear that Jamaica may struggle to break down what you would call a low block defensive approach. It may very well take a set piece, a corner, a free kick to really unlock this Cuban defense. So that is my read of the situation. So while we may build up, dominate the ball, possess the ball, it may break down in that final third.
Well, it was a game, I think, last year in the Nations League, where I think it was Dixon, Ahim Dixon. He
Right?
scored a goal in that game, but missed a number of them. So when we do have these inferior opponents, we do create. Many times, what happens is that we actually miss the chances, but the chances
Right.
are created. I'm thinking that this time around, especially playing at home, we should be able to take more of those chances.
So for this game, though, Sir Cole, who are you looking to start? Who would be in your starting 11 if you were the coach? I mean, Steve McClaren is the coach, but what says Steve Cole?
I saw an interview with McClaren, and he said that he had spoken to Coach Hal Grimson. I don't think at this point McClaren will want to see um, imprint upon the team as yet. He basically want to say, okay, let me see what you can do in what you
Right?
know how to do, rather than
Mhm.
do what I want you to do. So
Right.
I'm thinking that's the approach that will be taken. Not much variance from what Coach Hargreaves has said. He wouldn't have had much time with the team to to go over for a complete change in terms of what they have done. So he would have respected the work of the previous coach. They seem very cordial. I don't think there's anything as to why he wouldn't share. Having spoken as well with Coach Hal Grimson in a workshop sometime, his before that was about in January or so, his position was to leave Jamaica football in a better position than he got it, and I think he has done exactly that. So I won't say I'm looking for any wholesale changes. I think that it will be a pretty much template 11, and then afterward, now we start to see changes come in.
Mm. Okay, so in the template 11, though, circle, who is the striker in that template?
The template 11. Well, I'm thinking he definitely go with Antonio. Antonio is like
Okay.
the person he put up front.
Oh, so Nicholson on the bench then and Dixon on the bench, or do they start them out wide?
Dixon for sure on the bench. He may start with Nicholson on the field as well.
Mm. Okay, did Cephas get a call up for this one?
Cephas, I don't recall. I don't have the list in front of me.
Ah, ja. Yeah, I mean, he was one of those players which impressed me personally, you know. But,
But that game in which Cephas created a lot of, he impressed a lot. It was against a weak team, and if you
Sure.
recall, if you
You
recall,
can
the
only
games
perform
afterward,
against who is in front
true.
of you. They're so called. I mean, he got the call for that game, and to me, he impressed. Only to, I
Which he
think,
did.
only to be dropped, I think, for the following game, I think.
The following game, well, his performances afterward really have not been anything to really write home about. He showed
Well,
a lot of pace, yes, but apparently the magic has worn off already. So
well, but for sure, definitely looking forward to this one, Sir Cole. Excitement is in the air, so to speak, to see McClaren in charge of his first game. Big coach, big opportunity, big World Cup coming up in 2026 in our backyard, right there in the USA, Canada, and a few games taking place in Mexico as well. So this is a prime opportunity. This is where the journey really begins. World Cup qualifying probably starts sometime later on this year. But for this one, this is a Nations League game in terms of qualification for the next edition of the Gold Cup. So for sure, it's a game of importance, and it's a game that McClaren should be looking to make a good first impression. And as you said, the players should be looking to take the opportunity, show their skill, and make an impression on the court so that next call up, World Cup coming up, they can make that final cut in all honesty. So definitely looking forward to this one. But Sir Cole, any final thoughts as it relates to this game versus Cuba, a country which you've spent a number of years in, Sir Cole? Is your allegiance split at this point in time?
no, the allegiance is not split, but I wish Cuba all the best in the rest of games, just not against Jamaica.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. But for sure. So you're saying this one, Sir Cole, bag up 4-0, Jamaica.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a fairly routine victory tomorrow, and just want to implore the fans to come out and support the team.
Ah, indeed, indeed. Well, there you have it, viewers and subscribers. Sir Cole saying this one should be a easier routine win for this Jamaican team. The first game under Steve McClaren, former Manchester United assistant coach, former England manager. So this is a big name coach with a wealth of experience under his belt. And for sure, the players and spectators should be looking forward to this one. And of course, McLaren should be looking to make a good first impression going forward. The first one in the national colors of Jamaica. And this one taking place on Friday at 8 p.m. local time in Jamaica. Kingston, Jamaica is the venue. Big under the lights up there at the National Stadium Circle. All guns blazing. Everything is in place. I take it at this point in time.
New and improved lighting, come out and see it.
Well, there you have it, viewers and subscribers. There you have it. I mean, thank you again for tuning in to us here on Beating the Press podcast. Of course, continue to share, like, and if you haven't subscribed as yet, hit that subscription bell. Let us know in the comment section what are your thoughts on this match coming up. What is your predicted scoreline? Can Jamaica really take it to this Cuban team and really bug them up, so to speak? Or do the Cubans have something up their sleeve? We'll be here to watch it and we'll be here to give you a breakdown of that game. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.